Code Blue. CCCP-TV was the new television and radio network formed from the remains of Comcast, NBC and MSNBC, CNN, CBS, and PBS. Poor ABC didn't even merit mention in the new name. Fox was cancelled by the FCC. CC was ready to go, seated in the new Broadcast Studio 1 of CCCP-TV, located deep in Truth Tower. A digital countdown warned him of the dwindling minutes and seconds before he would be on air. He didn't actually know yet what he'd be saying. The editors kept a tight grip on the scripts, so he'd need to pay close attention and accurately read from the teleprompter. One bad slip, and he could be cancelled by the FCC. Once again, he expected his show would be number one in its broadcast time slot. That wasn't too difficult, since CCCP-TV was the only network that was broadcasting now, but he was still proud of that accomplishment. The word truth was evident at every possible spot in the building, through its signage and artwork, even in its elevator music and the decorative inlays in its carpet and floor tiles. On one large lobby wall, called the Wall of Truth, it appeared in metal letters 4 feet tall, and below that truth was translated, in much smaller metal letters, into every known language of the world. The CCCP-TV network slogan was, "Trust us, it's true." Though he'd accomplished a lot in his first few months as the CEO of CCCP-TV, he often felt like he was buried beneath Truth Tower, with the weight of the whole building pushing down on him. He had much at stake tonight. He'd gotten the word from the FCC. This week's live broadcast better go well, or you will hear from the FCC. Cancelled. Bang, just like that. No more job, no more paycheck, no more executive office or personal residence in the Truth Tower penthouse suite. He'd be out on the dark, dangerous street with no prospects. Who would hire someone cancelled by the FCC? The producers and writers had assembled a good show, but would it be good enough? Would someone screw up in the production? Could he depend on the two show hosts not to drop the ball? What if some unforeseen event or technical glitch occurred? Would they really blame him for something he couldn't predict or control? Live broadcasts were extra risky. The monitors in his office cued him that the live show was starting, and he turned to the wall of flat-screen video monitors to watch the broadcast. The two hosts did what the CEO expected them to do with the show's introduction. They read the teleprompter lines accurately and spoke clearly with just the right emotions. The wardrobe, makeup, sound, lighting, and camera crews did great work to give them just the right look and tone. As usual for live broadcasts, there was an FCC content censor stationed in the control room to deal with any deviations from the script approved by the FCC. The FCC content censor at Truth Tower loved his current job, where he was in control and nobody was permitted to break any of the rules. He would make sure of that tonight. Cece turned to face camera one and read his lines from the teleprompter. It's time now for our weekly science segment. Chill joined in with her lines from the prompter. Dr. Fidel Bolivar Mendez is the current director of the WHO and a renowned epidemiologist from Cuba. CC explained from the teleprompter. You will recall it was necessary to provide rapid damage control for the faltering CDC and associated agencies. The President and the Speaker of the United Congress wisely determined that the best way to rescue the CDC was to contract with the WHO to run the CDC and the associated U.S. agencies. So Dr. Mendes is now the leader of both the WHO and the CDC, and we are honored to have him join us tonight. Message from the engineers. Cue the feed from Venezuela. Dr. Mendes spoke excellent English, with just the slightest hint of his Cuban roots, as he read from the teleprompter. Scientists have developed multiple therapeutic remedies. All of these are approved by the WHO and FDA. When we resolve the temporary production and distribution problems, we'll be able to vanquish disease from the whole world. Dr. Mendes started to veer away from the teleprompter script. Unless the recent Canadian reports of a wild new mutation in the coronavirus should be true, the FCC content censor was ready for this kind of problem. He hit the code red button on his console. That automatically interrupted the live feed and switched the broadcast feed to a pre-approved 6-minute recording intended for this kind of circumstance. That briefly cleared all the teleprompter screens and flashed a quick red warning to the show hosts seated in Studio One. Also gave the show hosts and guests a mild electrical shock to their backsides. The code red recording began with the pre-recorded voice of Cece saying, "Oops, we've run a little long on this segment. We'll go to a short public service announcement break now, and then we'll return to our live broadcast," while showing an on-screen image of the CCCP TV Wall of Truth in Truth Tower. Most of the 6 minutes were filled by PSAs, with Hollywood celebrities providing advice on how viewers should make sacrifices for the good of the world and furnishing the phone numbers and websites to make much-needed contributions. The Code Red recording concluded with a commercial from the National Lottery. The Code Red notification was automatically sent to the FCC High Commissioner for Content. The FCC content censor also texted her the details of the major transgression by Dr. Mendes. The FCC's High Commissioner for Content was at home in upstate New York watching this television broadcast while multitasking paperwork from the FCC. She was not happy. She pre-approved all of the recorded content and the teleprompter scripts for the live segments. She made a note on tomorrow's calendar. Cancel CCCP TV CEO and Advertising Department. There was the brief problem with Dr. Mendes. Fortunately, the content censor was alert and responded correctly before it got worse. Most likely, nobody paid much attention to his off-script comment. Sabine, the Venezuelan Internal Security Force, had already apprehended Dr. Mendes. But the party bigwigs and WHO would need to conference immediately to identify interim leadership for both the WHO and CDC and prepare the public announcement regarding the tragic accidental demise of Dr. Mendes. The CCCP TV engineers and Public Safety Fact-Check Board were already working to excise the Mendes leak from all recordings, websites, and transcripts. By tomorrow morning, the PSFC would modify its algorithms to detect and deter anyone trying to search for this incident or share it on social media, chat, or email. Everyone at CCCP TV would receive a verbal warning: keep it quiet or be canceled. They would have heard about the CEO and Advertising Department cancellation and would fully comply with the warning. Just like that, the whole incident would vanish. She slid the detritus of tonight's snack platter to the far end of her copy table, clapped her hands twice, and made a cluck-cluck, cheep-cheep sound. That caught the attention of her 3 pet monkeys, which she'd received as a personal gift from the president of Venezuela. Her staff hated the monkeys, and the rare visitors were generally afraid of them. They did bite sometimes. But the simian trio had bonded to her, and she to them. They would sit on her lap and slept in her bedroom. They were good company, and they couldn't testify against her in any legal proceeding. The 3 monkeys practically flew across the room and devoured the snack leftovers from the platter. Chill looked around Studio One and asked CC and the off-camera crew, "Do you guys smell smoke?" The FCC content censor pushed the code blue button on his console and ran for the emergency exit, without once looking back toward the others in the studio and control room. The code blue software interrupted the live broadcast feed and switched to a pre-approved 60-minute recording intended for this kind of circumstance. The code blue recording began with a video image of the CCCP TV logo and a pre-recorded voice of Chill. Well, that's the end of this broadcast. Stay tuned for our food science news show covering developments in hemp-based vegetable proteins. The entire food science news show was a highly technical monotone lecture by an elderly man in a blue lab coat. No chyron streamed during the broadcast of this video recording. The FCC expected all viewers would turn off their televisions long before the 60 minutes ended. They expected any code blue problem would probably be resolved within 60 minutes.